The Galactic Council whispers under red lanterns about the human diplomat who smiles too calmly while worlds obey him. They say he is only a man from a dying blue planet, yet when he walks through the grand marble halls of the council chamber, every alien delegate goes quiet. Even the steel-eyed merchants from the Orion belts lower their voices. When he passes, they do not understand why he carries no guards, why he drinks the local water, why he never wears armor or carries a translator bot. They watch him laugh with the aides in the corridor, and they think he is a fool who does not know. He is in the jaws of those who decide which species live or vanish from the star charts. The council is filled with those who rule with fear and silence, but the human diplomat carries an old brown notebook and scribbles. While they argue and while they shout and pound the crystal tables, he leans back in his chair and waits. As if he has all the time in the universe, the council chamber is a dome of black glass, with a single silver tree in the center that hums with the voices of 1,000 lost worlds, and under that tree they plan his death. They talk of economic sanctions and sabotage, but the old lizard king of the 5th sector says no, it must be permanent, it must be quiet, it must be an accident. In the hallways where cameras are blind and the security drones have gaps in their routes, the young spider-like envoy, who has made fortunes on the black sands of dead worlds, suggests poison a drop in the human diplomat's tea. But the poison masters say the human stomachs are strange, and can resist things that would kill the strongest warriors of other systems. The iron-masked princess who rules 3 moons with plasma whips says a blade would be better, quick, silent, easy, and the council agrees with her. They vote with their cold hands and metal claws and flickering light signals. Yes, it will be a blade, it will be tonight. And while they vote, the human diplomat sits in a quiet garden under false starlight, looking at the map of the sectors he has drawn by hand. He taps the map with his pen and writes small notes in the corners. He breathes in the scent of alien flowers and listens to the wind moving through the leaves. The guards watch him from a distance, thinking he is harmless, thinking he is soft, thinking he is just another human who believes in peace and words. While they sharpen knives in the dark, he folds the map carefully and places it back in the brown notebook, and when he stands, he moves without hurry, without fear, without any sign that the most powerful council in the galaxy has just decided he must die. The assassin squad waits in the halls. They check the edges of their blades. They set their cloaks to silence, and they whisper about how easy this mission will be, how soft humans are, how weak their bones are, how slow their reflexes are. They do not know the old stories from Earth. They do not know what the name Baba Yaga means. They do not know what kind of man walks under false stars without fear and carries a notebook instead of a weapon. They only know their target, and they are eager to collect their payment in the morning. The halls of the council station are quiet at this hour, when the stars outside the glass corridors shine cold and clear, and the lights dim to a pale glow that leaves long shadows stretching like claws on the floor. The human diplomat walks these halls with steady steps, his brown notebook in his pocket and his mind moving through the sectors and alliances and trade routes that can save or break entire systems. He thinks of the small colony on Vega that needs water filters. He thinks of the trade children on the asteroid belts who need safe corridors from pirates. He thinks of the promise he made to a dying miner on a salt moon that his family would see better days. He thinks of these things while he walks, and he does not think of death. He does not think of fear. He does not think of the whispers behind closed doors, calling for his blood. The assassin squad waits near the curve of the corridor, 3 of them, hidden behind a maintenance hatch to above in the ventilation duct. Their blades are black and thin and hum with a frequency that breaks bone with a single cut. Their leader, a shadow-eyed being with 4 arms and breathing like a whisper, counts the steps of the diplomat as he approaches and signals the others to be ready. They believe this will be fast. They believe this will be silent. They believe the human will fall before he understands what has happened. The diplomat sees the reflection of a blade in the glass wall, a glint like a small star flickering where it should not be. He does not stop walking. He does not change his breath. He does not reach for a weapon. Instead, he moves 1 step to the left as if to look at the view of the planet below, and the first blade misses his throat by the width of a breath. The assassin lunges again, but the human steps forward into the shadow, closing the space between them and the blade meant for his heart cuts. The assassin's eyes widen as the human raises his hand and catches the wrist of the blade, hand twisting it with a slow, cruel precision that makes the bones crack. The human leans close and whispers something no one else hears, and the assassin drops the blade clutching his broken wrist and backing away into the darkness. The other assassins drop down from the ducked blades raised, thinking they can overwhelm him with numbers. They do not see how he shifts his weight, how his eyes do not blink, how his hand moves faster than the blades, how his feet slide on the floor with the quiet of a falling feather. The first assassin swings, but the human steps under the blade and the elbow snaps. With a sound like dry wood breaking, the second comes from behind. But the human pivots, and the assassin finds himself looking into eyes that have seen death and carried it. The blade drops, the human catches it in the air, and moves so that it slides across the wrist of the third assassin, leaving a thin red line that opens as the assassin stumbles back. The others pause, now seeing that this is not a man who fights in panic or fear. They see something in his stance, something old, something that belongs in the dark corners of stories told to children to keep them in their beds at night. They see the Baba Yaga. The assassins freeze in the hallway for a breath, for a moment that stretches like the thin light of dawn across a battlefield. They see the human diplomat holding the black blade in his hand with the ease of a man holding a pen. They see the calm in his eyes, the way his shoulders relax, the way his feet slide slightly apart as if the floor itself is shifting under him. They see the way he looks at them, not as enemies, not as threats, but as problems to be solved and forgotten. The fourth assassin tries to scream a war cry, tries to make the moment belong to him, tries to control the fear rising in his throat as he charges with twin blades, humming with death. The human diplomat moves so quickly that the assassin does not see the motion, only feels the sudden pressure on his chest, and then the world tipping sideways as he hits the wall, the blades falling from his hands and sliding across the floor. The fifth assassin, the shadow-eyed leader with 4 arms, thinks to strike with all blades at once, thinks to end this quickly before the others lose all courage. But the human turns his head slightly, and the leader sees something in those eyes, something ancient, something that knows every pattern of fear, every echo of death, every reason why a man should live or die. And the leader hesitates for half a breath, and that is enough. The human diplomat steps forward, closing the distance. In a blink, his hand slides across one blade wrist and then the other. The blades drop to the ground, ringing softly in the empty hallway, and the leader finds himself unarmed, looking into the eyes of the man he was sent to kill. The leader tries to step back, tries to raise his lower arms to block the strike he knows is coming, but the human does not strike. Instead, he leans closer, so close that the leader can see the tiny lines around the human's eyes, can see the quiet fury behind the calm, can see the promise of something worse than death. If he takes another breath, the human whispers something, again, something soft, something in a language the leader does not understand, and the leader feels the weight of that whisper like a mountain pressing against his chest, and he drops to his knees. The other assassins, the ones still able to stand, look at each other, and they see in each other's eyes the truth that they have made a mistake, that they have stepped into the dark, thinking they were the hunters, and finding the wolf waiting for them. The human diplomat steps back and looks down at the leader on his knees, and the assassins see him tilt his head slightly, as if considering if they are worth the effort of finishing, or if they should be left to live with the memory of what they have seen. The leader lowers his head in shame and fear, and the human diplomat steps past him, walking down the hallway, as if nothing has happened, as if he has not dismantled 5 trained killers with the quiet grace of rain falling on steel. He leaves them there in the hallway, the black blade still in his hand, his brown notebook tucked under his arm, and as he walks, the lights of the corridor flicker, and the glass walls reflect his image over and over, the image of a man who is no longer just a diplomat, but something far older, something the council should have left sleeping on that small blue planet under that dying sun, something they will now learn to fear. The assassins freeze in the hallway for a breath, for a moment that stretches like the thin light of dawn across a battlefield. They see the human diplomat holding the black blade in his hand with the ease of a man holding a pen. They see the calm in his eyes, the way his shoulders relax, the way his feet slide slightly apart as if the floor itself is shifting under him. They see the way he looks at them, not as enemies, not as threats, but as problems to be solved and forgotten. The fourth assassin tries to scream a war cry, tries to make the moment belong to him, tries to control the fear rising in his throat as he charges with twin blades, humming with death. The human diplomat moves so quickly that the assassin does not see the motion, only feels the sudden pressure on his chest, and then the world tipping sideways as he hits the wall, the blades falling from his hands and sliding across the floor. The fifth assassin, the shadow-eyed leader with 4 arms, thinks to strike with all blades at once thinks to end this quickly before the others lose all courage, but the human turns his head slightly, and the leader sees something in those eyes. Something ancient, something that knows every pattern of fear, every echo of death, every reason why a man should live or die, and the leader hesitates for half a breath, and that is enough. The human diplomat steps forward, closing the distance in a blink. His hand slides across one blade wrist and then the other. The blades drop to the ground, ringing softly in the empty hallway, and the leader finds himself unarmed, looking into the eyes of the man he was sent to kill. The leader tries to step back, tries to raise his lower arms to block the strike he knows is coming, but the human does not strike. Instead, he leans closer, so close that the leader can see the tiny lines around the human's eyes, can see the quiet fury behind the calm, can see the promise of something worse than death. If he takes another breath, the human whispers something again, something soft, something in a language the leader does not understand, and the leader feels the weight of that whisper like a mountain pressing against his chest, and he drops to his knees. The other assassins, the ones still able to stand, look at each other, and they see in each other's eyes the truth that they have made a mistake, that they have stepped into the dark, thinking they were the hunters and finding the wolf waiting for them. The human diplomat steps back and looks down at the leader on his knees, and the assassins see him tilt his head slightly, as if considering if they are worth the effort of finishing, or if they should be left to live with the memory of what they have seen. The leader lowers his head in shame and fear, and the human diplomat steps past him, walking down the hallway, as if nothing has happened, as if he has not dismantled 5 trained killers with the quiet grace of rain falling on steel. He leaves them there in the hallway, the black blade still in his hand, his brown notebook tucked under his arm, and as he walks, the lights of the corridor flicker, and the glass walls reflect his image over and over, the image of a man who is no longer just a diplomat, but something far older, something the council should have left sleeping on that small blue planet under that dying sun, something they will now learn to fear. The human diplomat walks through the silent halls as the lights hum above him, and the glass walls reflect the stars beyond like cold, watching eyes. He does not hurry, he does not look back, he leaves the assassins behind him, broken and shaking on the floor, not because he spares them out of mercy, but because they are already dead in the way that matters. They will never sleep without hearing the whisper of his steps, they will never hold a blade without feeling the ghost of his hands breaking their wrists. They will never believe in fearlessness again. The diplomat turns a corner, and the guards standing there with their silver lances shift nervously as he passes. They do not know what has happened, they only feel the chill that follows him. The air seems to bend around him like the hallway itself knows who walks through its center and fears to resist him. He steps into the diplomatic wing where the lights are warmer and the plants from 100 worlds grow in quiet gardens. The scent of strange flowers and bitter leaves fills the air, and the fountains bubble with water drawn from the clean springs of a moon the council keeps for its elites. He walks among the plants and runs his hand across the leaves, feeling the life in them, the softness, the fragility, and the stubbornness that keeps them reaching for light. Even in a place so far from any real sun, he pauses by a fountain and looks at his reflection. The water ripples, showing him the lines on his face, the cold in his eyes, the quiet in the way he holds himself. There is no blood on him. There is no sign of what he has done, but the air remembers, and the walls remember, and the water remembers. He takes the brown notebook from his pocket and opens it to a page filled with small notes, trade routes, sector negotiations, emergency supply lines for colonies that cannot pay but must not starve. He takes a pen and adds another note, a small mark, a reminder of what must be done when the council realizes what has happened. When they understand that their assassins have failed, they will move quickly, they will try again, they will send more. They will use poison, or drones, or political knives to cut him down before he can finish what he came here to do. The diplomat knows this. He knows that every step he takes now is a step closer to the edge of the blade, but he does not fear it because he has lived on that edge for longer than the council has existed. He has walked through wars and betrayals and shadows, and he has never stepped back. He has never surrendered, and he will not start. Now he closes the notebook and breathes in the scent of the gardens one last time before he turns and walks towards the council chamber, where the lords of 1,000 worlds gather to decide the fate of those too small to have voices. He walks towards them with the quiet certainty of a man who has already seen the end of this path, who knows the blood that will be spilled, and the deals that will be made, and the cost that will be paid. He walks because there is no one else who can do this, because there is no one else who dares to be the blade in the dark and the hand that holds it steady. He walks because he is the Baba Yaga The doors of the council chamber stand tall and silent, made of black iron, pulled from the core of a dead star, etched with the symbols of every species that has ever held power in this place. They open slowly with a deep sound like the breathing of something old and patient. The human diplomat steps through without hesitation, his brown notebook under his arm, his eyes scanning the room in a single cold sweep. He sees the delegates seated in their circles, some in thrones of crystal, some in pools of liquid metal, some wrapped in shadows that move and shift around them. They all look at him, with eyes that do not blink, with faces that do not move, as he walks to the center of the room, where the silver tree hums softly with the voices of 1,000 lost worlds. They watch him with the silence of predators waiting for the moment to strike again. They think he does not know that the assassins were only the first step. They think he does not see the poison waiting in the air vents, the drones in the ceilings armed and ready to end his life in a blink. They think he does not hear the whispers of the aides in the corners, sending messages to hidden ears telling them the diplomat is alone, the diplomat is unarmed, the diplomat is ready to be erased. But he knows every shadow in this place. He knows every route of the drones, every gap in the cameras, every breath the delegates take when they think they are safe. He knows because he has walked through darker places, with worse things waiting, and he has never failed to leave them behind him. He steps up to the silver tree, and places his notebook on the table beside it. The tree glows softly, reflecting in his eyes as he looks at the delegates, and they see the calm there, the quiet, the certainty, and they feel something cold crawl up their spines, though many of them do not even have spines to feel the chill. He speaks in a voice that is soft but carries to every corner of the chamber. He speaks of trade, roots, and starving colonies. He speaks of pirate lords preying on weak mining ships. He speaks of peace and alliances and the hope of small worlds that trust the council to protect them. His words are measured, each one placed carefully like a blade, laid on the table where everyone can see it, and the delegates listen because they have no choice. His words cut through the air, sharper than any weapon they have ever built, and they cannot look away. Some of them shift in their seats, some of them look at each other, trying to measure who will move first, who will call for his death openly, who will try to silence him before his words take root in the hearts of the few who still believe in honor, in duty, in hope. The diplomat sees all of this. As he speaks, he sees the fear in their eyes, the fear that he is right, the fear that he will not be silenced, the fear that they have awakened something they cannot put back to sleep. He finishes speaking, and the chamber is silent. The silver tree hums softly, as if it is waiting, and the human diplomat waits with it, his eyes steady, his breath calm. The Baba Yaga, standing alone in the heart of the empire, daring them to try again. The silence in the council chamber stretches thin, like the skin of a drum ready to break under the weight of a single breath. The human diplomat stands with his hand resting lightly on his brown notebook, his eyes sweeping across the gathered delegates, who shift in their seats, of crystal and metal and shadow. They see in his calm stance the promise of something they cannot control, and they feel the old fear, the fear they have tried to bury under treaties and plasma cannons and wealth stolen from 1,000 small worlds. The delegate from the Iron Moons leans forward, his eyes hidden behind a mask of smoke and wires. He asks why the human thinks he has the right to stand here, alone, and speak of hope, when he is nothing but flesh and bone, easy to break, easy to erase. The human diplomat tilts his head just slightly, and the lights of the chamber catch the lines of his face and the shadows around his eyes, and for a moment, the delegate sees something behind him, something dark, something that does not belong in their safe halls. They see a forest of black trees under a cold moon. They see a cabin with windows like empty eyes. They see the quiet snow-stained red and the silent footsteps of something that does not stop, something that does not forgive. The human diplomat speaks, and his voice is still, soft, still calm, but it carries through the chamber like the whisper of a blade drawn in the dark. He tells them that hope is not given, it is taken, it is fought for, it is held, with blood and sweat and quiet nights when the ghosts come to visit and you refuse to let them take you. He tells them that every small world, every quiet colony, every mother holding her child under a leaking roof while the sky burns above them, has more right to hope than the powerful have to silence it. He tells them that the council has forgotten that power is nothing if it is not used to protect the weak, and the delegates flinch because they know it is true. They know it in the bones they have left in the hearts. They pretend they no longer have. The delegate from the shadow cluster tries to interrupt, tries to speak of politics and alliances and the cost of kindness, but the human diplomat raises one hand and the chamber falls silent again, because they know they are not looking at a diplomat now. They are looking at the Baba Yaga, the shadow that moves through the dark. the promise that justice can come on quiet feet with eyes that do not blink. The human diplomat tells them he knows they sent the assassins, he knows they poisoned the air, he knows they have prepared to silence him if he speaks too long or too loudly, and he tells them it does not matter because he is not afraid of death, he is not afraid of shadows, he is not afraid of them. He tells them that if they want to silence him, they should do it now, they should try while he is standing here, alone in the center of their power, because he will not stop, he will not run, he will not beg them for mercy. And the chamber is silent, the tree hums softly, and the lights flicker as the human diplomat waits for them to decide if they are brave enough to try. The council chamber holds its breath as the human diplomat stands alone with the silver tree humming softly beside him. The delegates watch him with eyes that hide fear behind layers of politics and false calm. They think about the weapons they have hidden, the silent drones waiting above the ceiling panels, the toxins ready to flood the vents, the snipers with their rifles aimed at the center of the chamber. They think about the cost of letting him walk out alive with his words, with his quiet promise of hope and vengeance. They think about the risk of letting the small worlds hear his message and remember that they are not alone, that they are not forgotten, that the council can be held accountable. They think about all of this, while the human diplomat stands there waiting for them to decide if they will act, if they will try to kill him here. In front of each other, in front of the tree that remembers every word spoken in this chamber, the delegate from the storm systems, a creature of wind and static, flickers with a surge of blue light as it leans forward, asking what the human will do if they let him live. If they let him leave this chamber with his promises and his threats. The human diplomat does not blink, he does not smile, he simply lifts his brown notebook and opens it to a page filled with small, clean handwriting. The plans for trade routes, the list of starving colonies, the names of the pirate lords who prey on the weak, the black market routes that the council pretends not to see. He tells them that if they let him leave, he will keep his promise to those small worlds. He will feed the hungry and protect the weak, and he will not stop until every pirate and slaver and coward hiding behind council immunity is dragged into the light. He tells them that if they let him live, the council will have a chance to prove it can change before it is forced to change, before the storms they have ignored sweep them away, before the shadows they have created consume them. The delegates look at each other and they see the truth in his words. They see the unshakable certainty in his eyes, the quiet promise that he will keep fighting whether they let him leave or try to end him here. They see the shadow of the Baba Yaga standing behind him, waiting, patient, unblinking. The delegate from the Black Suns, a creature wrapped in robes of shifting dark folds, raises a hand, slowly asking what the human will do if they try to stop him, if they try to silence him as they have silenced so many before. The human diplomat closes the notebook and places it under his arm. He lifts his eyes to the lights above the chamber where the drones wait and the snipers hold their breath. He tells them that if they try, he will show them what it means to awaken something that does not die, something that does not fear, something that does not forgive. He tells them that if they try to silence him, the Baba Yaga will walk the halls of their palaces and the corridors of their hidden vaults and the black steps of their war rooms until every last one of them learns the cost of betrayal, and the chamber falls silent again as the silver tree hums and the delegates feel the weight of the decision pressing down on them. The silence in the council chamber grows so heavy that it feels like the gravity has increased, pulling at the hearts of the delegates, pulling at the air, as if the walls themselves know that something is about to break. The human diplomat stands, with the silver tree humming quietly beside him, his brown notebook under his arm, his eyes steady as he waits for them to decide if they will choose fear or courage, if they will choose darkness or the thin, fragile hope he carries with him. The delegate from the frost worlds shifts in their seat, carved from crystal ice that never melts. They speak slowly, carefully, asking why the human diplomat fights for worlds that cannot pay him, cannot protect him, cannot even promise him loyalty. In the end, the human diplomat looks at the delegate, and for a moment the air seems to pause, as if the chamber is listening, as if the stars outside the glass walls are listening. He tells them he fights because someone must. He tells them he fights because every small world, every mother holding her child, every farmer watching the sky for raiders, every healer who keeps working even when the medicine runs out, every child who dreams under a leaking roof deserves to know that someone is willing to stand for them, even when it is hard, even when it is dangerous, even when it would be easier to walk away. He tells them that he fights because hope is not given, it is made with blood and sweat and the quiet moments when you refuse to give up, even when the darkness says you should, and the delegates feel that truth settling into them like a weight. They cannot deny the delegate from the Iron Moons, leans forward, wires shifting around their head, asking what the human diplomat is willing to pay for this hope, asking if he is willing to die for it. If he is willing to lose everything, if he is willing to let the darkness take him to keep his promise. The human diplomat does not flinch, he does not look away, he tells them he has already paid, he tells them he has lost friends and family and pieces of himself in wars and betrayals and long, quiet nights. When the ghosts of those he could not save sit with him in the dark, he tells them he is willing to pay again and again and again, because that is what it means to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is what it means to carry hope when the powerful try to crush it. The delegates look at each other and they see fear, but they also see respect. They see the truth they have tried to ignore, reflected in the steady gaze of the human diplomat. They see the Baba Yaga standing before them, not as a monster, but as a promise that they will never again be allowed to forget the cost of the power they wield. The lights above flicker as the drones wait, the snipers wait, the poison waits. The delegates hold their breath as they balance the fear of what he might do. If he leaves with the fear of what will happen if they try to kill him here and fail, the human diplomat waits without fear, without hurry, knowing that the choice they make now will shape the fate of 1,000 worlds.